The old fishing boat rocked hard against the waves. Captain Marcus Webb held the wheel tight with his rough, weathered hands. He had been fishing these cold Atlantic waters for 37 years. At 62 years old, he knew the ocean like an old friend. He understood its moods, its dangers, its secrets. But tonight was different. The sky looked angry. Dark clouds rolled overhead. The wind howled like a wild animal. Marcus should have gone home hours ago, but something made him stay out longer. He couldn't explain it, just a feeling deep in his gut. Then he saw it. A bright purple light glowed beneath the dark water. It pulsed like a heartbeat, getting brighter, then dimmer, then brighter again. Marcus had never seen anything like it in all his years at sea. What in the world? He whispered to himself. The light wasn't natural. It couldn't be fish or jellyfish. It was too bright, too strange. Every instinct told Marcus to turn his boat around and go home, but something stronger pulled him forward, something he couldn't ignore. He slowed the engine and moved closer to the purple glow. The water around it began to churn and bubble violently. Then pieces of metal started floating to the surface, but this wasn't normal metal. It was twisted and strange, shimmering with colors Marcus had never seen before. It looked like a rainbow melted into steel. His heart pounded in his chest. "This ain't right," he muttered. Then Marcus saw something that made his blood run cold. A small figure was in the water, struggling to stay afloat, arms flailing weakly, going under, coming back up, going under again. "Someone's drowning," Marcus shouted into the empty night. Without thinking, he grabbed his life ring and rope. He'd done this rescue drill 100 times. His muscles knew what to do. He threw the ring hard and true. It landed right next to the struggling figure. Small hands grabbed onto the ring. Marcus pulled with all his strength. Hand over hand, he hauled the rope in. The figure came closer to his boat. As it emerged from the dark water into the glow of his deck lights, Marcus felt his whole world tilt sideways. This wasn't a person. Not a human person, anyway. The creature was small, about the size of a 10-year-old child, but her skin was pale blue-gray and seemed to glow slightly in the dim light. Her eyes were huge, much too large for her small face, and completely black like the night sky. What he thought was hair wasn't hair at all. Instead, thin tentacle-like strands moved on top of her head, waving slowly even though they were soaked with water. She wore a tight silver suit that sparked with little lights. The suit was torn in places, damaged badly. Marcus stood frozen, staring. His mind couldn't process what his eyes were seeing. The alien child collapsed onto his deck, gasping for air. She made strange sounds. Clicks and whistles mixed with desperate breathing. Water poured from her mouth and from small slits on her neck that looked like gills. She was dying right in front of him. That thought snapped Marcus into action. Alien or not, this was a child, a living being that needed help. He'd spent his whole life pulling things from the sea. He wasn't about to let anything die on his boat. "Hold on, little one. Just hold on," Marcus said in his gentlest voice. He ran to his cabin and grabbed every blanket he had. The child was shivering violently, her strange skin turning darker colors. Probably not a good sign. Marcus wrapped the blankets around her small body. Those enormous black eyes looked up at him. Even though they were completely alien, Marcus could read the expression clearly. Fear mixed with desperate hope. This child was terrified but wanted to live. "You're safe now," Marcus said softly. "I've got you." The girl's breathing slowly steadied. She curled into a tight ball under the blankets. Those tentacle things on her head wrapping close to her skull. She never took her eyes off Marcus, watching him, trying to figure out if he was friend or danger. Marcus looked around at the empty ocean. The purple light had faded away completely. The strange metal debris was sinking back into the dark water. In a few minutes there would be no trace of what happened here. Just an old fisherman, his boat, and an alien child from the stars. "What am I supposed to do with you?" Marcus asked quietly. He thought about calling the Coast Guard. They had radios for emergencies. This was definitely an emergency, but something stopped him. If he called for help, what would happen to this child? Would scientists take her away? Would the government lock her in some secret facility? Would they hurt her to study her? Marcus looked down at the small figure wrapped in his blankets. One small hand reached out from the cocoon of fabric. 3 long fingers and a thumb. The hand gently touched his boot. It was a gesture of trust, a gesture that said, "Please don't hurt me." In that moment, Marcus Webb made a decision that would change everything. "All right, little one, we're going home. My home. You'll be safe there while we figure this out." He turned his boat toward shore, toward his isolated cottage on the rocky peninsula. Behind him, the alien child made a soft sound, something between a sigh and a musical note. Relief, maybe, or gratitude. Above them, the clouds parted slightly. Stars appeared in the gap, twinkling in the cold night sky. Marcus wondered if one of those stars was her home. He wondered if anyone up there was looking for her. The boat's engine hummed as they cut through the dark waves. Marcus kept checking on his strange passenger. She was still shivering, but seemed more alert now. Those big eyes were looking at everything. The fishing equipment, the lights on the control panel, the photos of Marcus's dead wife that he kept taped near the wheel. "My name is Marcus," he said, pointing to himself. "Marcus." The girl tilted her head, those tentacle things moving with curiosity. She made a sound, a series of musical notes that were probably words in her language. "We'll figure out how to talk to each other," Marcus promised. "We've got time." As the lights of shore appeared in the distance, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in 8 long years since his wife died. He felt needed. He felt purpose. He'd pulled many things from the ocean in his 37 years of fishing. Countless fish, some treasure, a few people in distress. But tonight, he'd pulled out something impossible. Something that would test everything he believed about the universe and his place in it. The lonely old fisherman and the alien child traveled through the dark water toward an uncertain future. Neither knew what tomorrow would bring. But for tonight, they had each other. And sometimes, that's enough. Marcus carried the alien child through his front door. His cottage sat alone on the rocky coast, far from neighbors. Tonight, that loneliness felt like a blessing. No one would see what he brought home from the sea. The girl weighed almost nothing in his arms, light as a bird. He placed her gently on his old couch, near the wood stove. The fire crackled and popped, filling the room with warmth. Under the bright indoor lights, Marcus could see her better now. Her blue-gray skin had patterns like fish scales, but softer, more delicate. The tentacles on her head were drying out, moving more freely. They reminded him of sea anemones swaying in ocean currents. She was beautiful in a strange, otherworldly way. The girl's huge black eyes followed Marcus as he moved around the room. He could feel her watching his every step, studying him, trying to understand if she was truly safe or still in danger. "Let me get you something warm to drink," Marcus said. He went to his kitchen and heated up some chicken soup. His neighbor Mrs. Patterson had made it last week. When he brought the bowl to the alien child, she leaned forward and sniffed carefully. Her small nose wrinkled. Then she took a tiny sip, her face twisted in disgust. She set the bowl down quickly but politely. The message was clear. Human food didn't work for her body. "Okay, not soup, then," Marcus said. He tried water next. The girl drank the water eagerly. Her throat made soft clicking sounds as she swallowed. At least that worked. But water alone wouldn't keep her alive for long. Marcus sat in his old armchair across from her. His mind raced with 1,000 questions. Where did she come from? How did she crash in the ocean? Were others looking for her? And most importantly, what was he supposed to do now? The girl seemed to sense his worry. She reached up and touched the damaged silver suit she wore. A device on her wrist still worked, blinking with small lights. When she pressed it, something amazing happened. Images appeared in the air above her wrist. Holograms. They glowed with soft blue light, showing symbols and shapes that Marcus couldn't read. It was her language, he realized. Her way of communicating. That's incredible. Marcus whispered. The girl touched the device again. The holograms changed, showing a picture of a planet. But it wasn't Earth. This world was covered almost entirely in ocean. Floating cities sat on the water like massive coral reefs. Buildings that looked alive, growing instead of built. She touched the image of the ocean world gently. Her eyes grew sad. "That's your home?" Marcus asked. She seemed to understand his tone, even if not his words. She nodded, a gesture that apparently meant the same thing across the stars. The hologram shifted again, showing people like her, adults of her species, swimming through water and flying through air with graceful movements. Then the images turned dark. Explosions, fire, ships fleeing into space, chaos, and destruction. Marcus's heart sank. "You're running from something. Your people are refugees." The girl's tentacles drooped close to her head. A sign of sadness, Marcus guessed. She showed him more images. A small pod ship, damaged and falling, crashing into Earth's ocean, the impact destroying most of the vessel. "You barely survived," Marcus said softly. She nodded again, those enormous eyes glistening with what might have been tears. For a long moment, they sat in silence. Two beings from different worlds, sharing grief and fear in the quiet cottage. Outside, waves crashed against the rocky shore. Inside, the fire crackled peacefully. The girl suddenly stood up, wobbling on weak legs. She walked slowly to the mantel above the fireplace. Photos of Marcus's wife, Sarah, sat there in old frames. The girl touched one photo gently, Marcus and Sarah on their wedding day, young and happy. She looked back at Marcus and pointed at Sarah. Then she made a questioning sound. "My wife," Marcus said, his voice rough with emotion. "Sarah, she died 8 years ago. Cancer." The girl didn't know the word cancer, but she understood death. She touched her hologram device and brought up images of 2 adults from her species. They looked like her, but taller, more mature. She pointed at them, then made a sweeping gesture, scattering the image like dust in the wind. Gone. Her parents were gone, too. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, little one." The alien child walked over to him. Without hesitation, she leaned against his leg. It was a universal gesture that needed no translation. A child seeking comfort from loss. Marcus gently placed his hand on her small shoulder. She didn't pull away. They stayed like that for a while. 2 lonely souls finding connection in shared pain. Finally, exhaustion caught up with the girl. Her eyes began to close. Marcus led her to the guest bedroom. It had been Sarah's craft room once. He'd never changed it, couldn't bear to, but tonight it became something new. A sanctuary for a visitor from the stars. The girl looked at the bed uncertainly. Marcus mimed sleeping, laying his head on his hands. She understood and climbed onto the bed, still wrapped in the blankets from his boat. Within seconds, she was asleep. Her breathing became soft and rhythmic, with occasional musical sounds like humming in her sleep. Marcus stood in the doorway, watching her rest. His whole life had changed in one night. He'd saved a drowning child. But this wasn't just any child. This was someone from another world entirely. Tomorrow would bring difficult decisions. Should he contact authorities, scientists, the military? Or should he protect her, hide her, keep her safe from those who might treat her as a specimen instead of a person? But those were tomorrow's problems. Tonight, he'd given a lost child warmth and shelter from the storm. He'd shown her kindness when she had nothing and nowhere to go. Marcus closed the door gently and returned to his living room. The photos of Sarah seemed to smile at him from the mantel. He could almost hear her voice. "You did the right thing, Marcus. You always do." Outside, the stars shone bright and cold. Somewhere up there was the girl's home world. Somewhere out there, her people were fleeing across the galaxy. But tonight, she was safe. And Marcus Webb, the lonely fisherman, wasn't quite so lonely anymore. Morning light crept through the cottage windows. Marcus woke up on his couch, stiff and sore. He'd stayed there all night, unable to sleep properly. Every small sound made him jump, worried about his strange house guest. He walked quietly to the guest bedroom and peeked inside. The alien girl was awake, sitting cross-legged on the bed. Her tentacles were spread wide, moving in slow patterns. She seemed to be meditating or praying. When she noticed Marcus, those tentacles pulled back against her head. "Good morning," Marcus said gently. "Are you hungry?" She tilted her head, not understanding, but her hand went to her stomach. Apparently that gesture was universal, too. In the kitchen, Marcus tried everything. Toast with jam, scrambled eggs, cereal with milk, orange juice. The girl politely refused each item, her nose wrinkling at the smells. She was getting weaker. He could see it in how she moved, slower and more careful. Panic started building in Marcus's chest. What did aliens eat? How could he feed her if human food made her sick? Then he remembered the ocean. She came from a water world. Maybe. Marcus grabbed his coat. "Stay here, I'll be right back." He rushed down to the rocky beach below his cottage. The morning tide had left behind fresh seaweed on the stones. Marcus gathered armfuls of kelp, sea lettuce, and Irish moss. His neighbors would think he'd gone crazy if they saw him, but he didn't care. Back in the cottage, he washed the seaweed and laid it out on a plate. The girl's reaction was immediate. Her eyes went wide. She grabbed a piece of kelp and ate it eagerly, making happy humming sounds. Marcus laughed with relief. "Finally, you like ocean vegetables." The girl devoured the seaweed, her color improving with each bite. When she finished, she looked at Marcus with such gratitude that his heart melted. She stood up, walked over, and touched his hand with her three-fingered grip. Then she pointed at the food, at herself, and back at Marcus. "Thank you for feeding me." Over the next few days, they built a routine. Marcus would collect seaweed every morning. The girl would help him clean it, learning which types she liked best. She loved the dark purple dulse most of all. But more important than food, they started learning to talk. Marcus would point at objects around the house. Chair, table, door, window, cup. The girl would repeat the words in her musical voice. The sounds came out slightly wrong, but close enough. Chair, table, door, window, cup. Then she would activate her wrist device and show him her language. The holographic symbols were beautiful, geometric shapes that flowed like water. They seemed to represent whole ideas instead of just single words. By the third day, something magical happened. Marcus pointed at himself. "Marcus. My name is Marcus." The girl understood. She placed her hand on her own chest and made a sound. A beautiful series of musical notes that rose and fell, like a song. She repeated it slowly, looking at him expectantly. Marcus listened carefully. He tried to copy the sound with his rough, human voice. It came out clumsy and flat. The girl's face showed disappointment. But Marcus tried again and again. On his 10th attempt, he got closer to the right melody. The girl's face lit up with pure joy. Her tentacles spread wide, waving with excitement. She clapped her 3-fingered hands together. Marcus had said her name. Not perfectly, but close enough. In return, the girl said carefully, "Marcus." They'd exchanged names. It felt like a sacred promise between them. "Luna," Marcus said, giving her an Earth name too. "I'll call you Luna, like the moon." She repeated it, "Luna." Then she smiled. Her first real smile. Her mouth was different from a human's, but the emotion was the same. That afternoon, Luna showed Marcus more of her story through holograms. She showed him the war that destroyed her world, the enemy ships that hunted her people across space, the desperate escape pods fleeing in all directions. She showed him images of her parents again. This time, Marcus noticed they were holding her hands in the hologram. A family. Luna touched the image of her mother with such tenderness. Then Luna did something that broke Marcus's heart. She brought up a hologram of her parents, then pointed at Marcus. She was asking, "Where is your family?" Marcus stood up and took down a photo of Sarah from the mantel. "This was my wife, Sarah. She died, gone forever." Luna studied the photo carefully. Then she looked at Marcus's face, seeing the pain there. She made a soft, sad sound, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. A sound of sympathy. Slowly, Luna walked over and hugged Marcus, her small arms wrapped around his waist. She made more of those musical sounds, and somehow Marcus understood. She was saying, "I'm sorry. Loss hurts. I understand." Marcus hugged her back, tears running down his weathered face. Two orphans from different worlds, holding each other in shared grief. When they finally pulled apart, Luna pointed at herself, then at Marcus. She said in broken English, "Luna, Marcus, family now." Marcus's voice cracked. Yes, family now. That evening they sat on the porch watching the sunset. Luna's tentacles waved slowly, peacefully. She was learning to feel safe. Marcus realized he was learning something too. How to care for someone again. How to have purpose beyond just surviving each lonely day. The fisherman and the alien child sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn orange and pink. Up in the stars, Luna's people were fleeing for their lives. Down here on Earth, one small girl had found shelter, and Marcus Webb had found something he thought he'd lost forever. A reason to hope. 1 week passed in peaceful hiding. Marcus and Luna fell into a comfortable rhythm. She learned more English every day. He learned her eating habits, her sleep patterns, her moods. The tentacles on her head were like a mood ring, spread wide when happy, tight against her skull when scared. But peace never lasts forever. On the 8th day, Marcus needed supplies. He couldn't avoid town any longer. The fridge was empty, and Luna needed more seaweed. He'd told his neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, he had a bad cold and needed to stay isolated, but people would get suspicious if he disappeared completely. "Stay inside," Marcus told Luna firmly. "Don't go near windows. Don't make noise. I'll be back in 2 hours." Luna nodded, understanding the danger. "Luna, hide. Be safe." The town of Granite Bay was small. Just one main street with a general store, a diner, and a gas station. Marcus parked his truck and went into Chen's market. He grabbed a cart and started loading it with supplies. Extra blankets, batteries, and lots of seaweed from the Asian food section. Tommy Chen, the store clerk, raised his eyebrows. "That's a lot of seaweed, Marcus. You starting a new diet?" "Just trying something different," Marcus said casually. Before Tommy could ask more questions, the door opened. Sheriff Dalton walked in, his heavy boots thudding on the floor. He had that look, the serious cop look that meant trouble. "Morning, Marcus," the sheriff said. "Heard you've been sick. Feeling better?" "Much better, thanks." Sheriff Dalton pulled out his phone. "Got something strange to show you. Coast Guard found debris about 15 miles offshore, near where you usually fish." He showed Marcus a photo. Marcus's stomach dropped. The image showed a piece of twisted metal, shimmering with those impossible colors. It was from Luna's crashed pod, no doubt about it. "You see anything unusual out there last week?" the sheriff asked, watching Marcus's face carefully. "Lights? Aircraft? Anything?" Marcus kept his expression neutral. "No, Sheriff, nothing unusual." The sheriff studied him for a long moment. Too long. "Huh. Strange. Because this metal, scientists can't identify it. Not from any country we know about. Some government people are getting real interested, asking questions about possible survivors." Marcus's blood turned to ice. They were looking for Luna. They knew someone might have survived the crash. "If you see anything strange, you call me immediately. Understand?" The sheriff's tone was friendly, but there was steel underneath. "Of course, Sheriff." Marcus paid quickly and drove home faster than he should have. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tight, his knuckles turned white. When he burst through the cottage door, Luna jumped up from the couch. She took one look at his face and knew. "Danger?" "Yes, danger." Marcus showed her the photo on his phone. "They found your ship. They're looking for survivors." Luna's tentacles pulled tight against her head. Her skin turned darker. Fear. She touched her wrist device, and it immediately went dark. All the lights shut off. She was hiding her technology from detection. Then she spoke rapidly in her own language, frustrated that Marcus couldn't understand the complex warning she needed to give. Finally, she activated one quick hologram, showing ships with searchlights, scanning technology, soldiers. The message was clear. They would search. They would use advanced equipment. Eventually, they would find her. "How long do we have?" Marcus asked. Luna held up 3 fingers, then pointed at the setting sun. 3 days, maybe less. Marcus spent that night preparing. He cleared out a space behind a false panel in his basement. It was small, cramped, but well hidden. He stocked it with water, food, blankets, and a camping light. If authorities came to search, Luna could hide there. Luna watched him work, her large eyes filled with sadness. She understood what this meant. Marcus was risking everything to protect her. If he got caught hiding an alien, he could go to prison, or worse. "Marcus," she said softly, "why help Luna? Make danger for you." Marcus stopped working and looked at her. "Because it's the right thing to do. You're a child. You're alone and scared. I won't let them take you and lock you in some laboratory." Luna walked over and took his rough, weathered hand in her small 3-fingered grip. "Marcus, good man. Best human. 2 days passed in tense waiting. Every car that drove by made them freeze. Every phone call made Marcus's heart race. Luna practiced hiding in the secret basement room, learning to stay perfectly quiet for hours. On the 3rd day, everything changed. Marcus was teaching Luna to play chess when her wrist device suddenly pulsed with light. She gasped, touching it with shaking hands. A hologram appeared, an adult female of her species, looking desperate and frightened. The woman spoke urgently in their musical language. Luna responded, tears streaming down her blue-gray face. "Luna, what's happening?" Marcus asked. Luna turned to him, her voice breaking. "Mo there, my mother, she alive." The hologram showed a damaged ship, being chased by other vessels through space. Luna's mother was explaining something desperately. Then the hologram flickered and died. Luna stood frozen, her whole body shaking. Then she spoke in halting English. "Mother say, hunters coming, bad aliens. They want Luna. They hurt Luna." She grabbed Marcus's shirt. "Mother say, stay with Marcus. Hide. Be safe with human family." "Your mother wants you to stay here." "With me?" Luna nodded, sobbing. "Mother say, trust Marcus. He save Luna. He protect Luna." Outside, a low rumble shook the cottage. Marcus ran to the window and looked up. The afternoon sky was filled with lights, military jets scrambling from the nearby Air Force base. But there were other lights, too, lights that moved in impossible ways. The battle for Luna had begun, and Marcus Webb, a simple fisherman, stood between an alien child and forces he couldn't possibly fight. The sky exploded with light and sound. Marcus grabbed Luna's hand. "Basement, now." They ran down the wooden stairs as the cottage shook. Explosions boomed somewhere over the ocean, not close, but getting closer. Through the small basement window, Marcus saw streaks of fire cutting across the darkening sky. Ships, alien ships, fighting above Earth. Luna was crying, making those musical sounds of grief. Her people were up there, dying, fighting, and she could do nothing but hide like a scared animal. "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered, holding her close. "I'm so sorry." The lights in the cottage flickered, then died completely. Every electronic device went silent. Luna's wrist device went dark. Even Marcus's watch stopped working. Some kind of electromagnetic pulse from the battle. They were trapped in darkness, blind and defenseless. Then Marcus heard it. Footsteps outside, heavy, methodical, moving across the gravel driveway with purpose. Not human footsteps, too heavy, too deliberate. "Luna, get in the hidden room," Marcus whispered urgently. But it was too late. The basement door exploded inward with a deafening crash. Wood splinters flew everywhere. A massive figure stood at the top of the stairs, silhouetted against the orange glow of the burning sky. It was alien, but nothing like Luna. This creature was huge, at least 7 feet tall, covered in dark armor that looked like insect shell. Its helmet had multiple red eyes that scanned the basement like targeting lasers. A hunter, one of the species that was chasing Luna's people across the galaxy. The creature spotted Luna and raised a weapon. The device hummed with deadly energy, charging up for a kill shot. Marcus didn't think. He grabbed an old baseball bat from the corner, the one he'd used to play with neighborhood kids decades ago. Pathetic weapon against alien technology. But it was all he had. He swung with every ounce of strength in his aging body. The bat connected with the hunter's arm. The impact jarred Marcus's bones, but the weapon flew from the creature's grip, clattering across the floor. The hunter turned on Marcus with a roar, a horrible sound like metal scraping stone. Its armored hand backhanded Marcus across the basement. Pain exploded through his ribs. He hit the concrete wall hard and collapsed, gasping for air. Through blurred vision, Marcus saw the hunter advancing on Luna. She was trapped in the corner, nowhere to run. But Luna surprised them both. Despite her fear, despite being just a child, she moved. Her small hand touched something on her damaged silver suit. The fabric glowed bright blue. Suddenly, Luna moved with impossible speed, faster than any human could track. She dove for the hunter's fallen weapon, grabbed it, and touched it to her wrist device. Both pieces of technology sparked wildly, overloading each other in a brilliant flash of light. The hunter stumbled backward, its armor smoking and sparking. Its targeting systems went haywire, the red eyes flickering randomly. Above them, more explosions. Closer now. The whole cottage shook. Marcus heard different sounds, lighter, more graceful movements. New voices calling out in Luna's musical language. Rescue had arrived. 2 figures descended the basement stairs. They moved like water, graceful and fluid. They were Luna's species, adults, tall and elegant, wearing suits similar to Luna's, but undamaged and glowing with power. One rushed to Luna, scanning her quickly with a device, checking for injuries. The other moved to Marcus, still crumpled against the wall. It looked at him with those large, expressive eyes, then placed its 3-fingered hand over its heart. The gesture of gratitude was unmistakable. Luna was speaking rapidly to the rescuers, pointing at Marcus, explaining what happened. The rescuers listened, their tentacles waving with what might have been surprise or respect. One of them spoke to Marcus in broken but understandable English. "You protect child. Risk life. We grateful. Forever grateful." They secured the unconscious hunter quickly with some kind of energy restraints. Outside, the sounds of battle were moving away. Luna's people had achieved their mission. They'd found her. Mrs. Patterson appeared at the top of the stairs, her face pale with shock. Behind her stood Father O'Brien and Dr. Tanaka, all 3 staring at the impossible scene below. Luna broke free from her rescuer and ran to Marcus. She threw her arms around him despite his injuries, sobbing those musical sounds of relief and sorrow mixed together. One rescuer spoke again. "Child says, wants stay with you, her human father." Marcus looked up in shock. "What? No, she needs to go home, be with her people." But Luna pulled back, looking at him with those enormous eyes, swimming with tears. In her broken English, she said words that shattered and remade Marcus's heart. "Marcus is home. Luna's mother died today, in battle. Last words to Luna. Stay safe, with good human. Marcus save Luna. Marcus love Luna. Luna, choose Marcus." The room fell silent except for the distant rumble of departing ships. The rescuer spoke gently. Her mother died protecting rescue ships. Last message, keep child safe with human who saved her. Now, you choose too. Take this responsibility. Marcus looked around at the destruction. His cottage damaged, his life forever changed. Authorities who would come asking questions. This choice would make everything harder, more dangerous, more complicated. Then he looked at Luna's face. This brave, intelligent, loving child who'd lost everything but somehow still had hope. "Yes," Marcus said firmly. "She's mine. I choose her." The rescuer nodded slowly. "Then we help. Watch over both of you. Protect you. Humans helped when we were vulnerable. We remember. We return the help." Through the basement window, Marcus saw the last of the alien ships departing into space. But he understood now. They weren't abandoning Luna. They were leaving her somewhere safe, with someone they trusted. As dawn broke over Maine, Marcus held Luna close. His cottage was destroyed. His quiet life was over. Nothing would ever be the same. But looking at Luna's tear-stained face, he knew one thing for certain. He'd made the right choice. 6 months changed everything. Marcus stood on the deck of his repaired boat, the Sarah May, with Luna beside him. The evening sun painted the ocean gold and orange. Luna's tentacles swayed gently in the sea breeze, fully relaxed, happy. She had grown so much. Not taller, her species matured slowly, but stronger, confident. Her English was now perfect, with only that slight musical quality that made every word sound like a song. "Beautiful sunset," Luna said, leaning against the railing. "Sure is," Marcus agreed. The town of Granite Bay had changed, too. After that night of explosions and lights in the sky, the government came with questions. Lots of questions. But something unexpected happened. The town closed ranks. Mrs. Patterson told officials she saw nothing unusual. Sheriff Dalton's reports somehow lost important details. Dr. Tanaka's scientific expertise made the military's evidence seem questionable. Father O'Brien spoke about miracles and faith, confusing investigators until they gave up. The town had collectively decided to protect one of their own. Human or not, Luna belonged to Granite Bay now. Marcus's cottage had been rebuilt, but different. Hidden technology from Luna's people was woven into the walls. Shields that blocked detection. Communication devices disguised as regular electronics. To anyone looking, it was just an old fisherman's house. But it was actually one of the most advanced buildings on Earth. Luna attended school now, through a carefully constructed online program. James Foster had created a perfect false identity. Birth certificate, medical records, everything. On paper, Luna Webb was Marcus's adopted daughter from a distant relative who died. The story was simple enough that people believed it. "Marcus." Luna's voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Yeah, kiddo, I got a message today, from the fleet." Her tentacles drooped slightly. "They asked again if I want to join them, live on the ships with my people." Marcus's heart clenched, but he kept his voice steady. "What did you tell them?" Luna was quiet for a moment, watching the waves. "I told them, I'm grateful. I love my people. But I have family here. I have a home here." She looked up at him. "Was that okay?" "Luna, you don't need my permission. This is your choice. Always your choice." She smiled, that slightly alien smile that Marcus had learned to love. "I know, but I want you to know. I choose you. I choose Earth. Not because I have to, because I want to." Her wrist device chimed softly. She activated it, and a hologram appeared. An adult alien, one of the fleet leaders, spoke in English for Marcus's benefit. "Marcus Webb, Luna. We understand Luna's decision. She will be bridge between our peoples, connect humans and refugees. She visits us. We visit her. Both families." "Both families," Marcus repeated, liking the sound of that. The hologram continued. "Humans surprised us. We expected fear, hatred. Instead, you showed kindness. One old fisherman risked everything for alien child, changed everything. The being's tentacles waved with emotion. You gave us hope, Marcus Webb. Hope that universe has good people. People worth knowing." After the hologram faded, Luna and Marcus stood in comfortable silence. Above them, stars began appearing in the darkening sky. Some of those lights weren't stars. They were ships, watching over Earth from a distance. "Marcus?" Luna said softly. "Yeah? Thank you. For saving me that night. For keeping me. For being my dad." Marcus felt familiar tears prick his eyes. Happened a lot these days. "Thank you for letting me." They headed back to shore as darkness fell. The cottage lights glowed warm and welcoming. Mrs. Patterson's car was in the driveway. She'd promised to bring dinner. Probably that tuna casserole Luna loved, mixed with seaweed, of course, as they docked the boat. Luna paused. She looked back at the ocean where Marcus had found her 6 months ago. "That night, when you pulled me from the water, you saved my life. I just did what anyone would do." "No." Luna shook her head firmly. "Most humans would have been too afraid, too suspicious. But you saw a child drowning, and nothing else mattered. That's special. That's who you are." Marcus helped her off the boat. "Well, you saved me too. I was drowning in loneliness after Sarah died. Didn't even realize it. You gave me a reason to live again." They walked up the path to the cottage together. Father and daughter, human and alien, connected by something stronger than blood or DNA. Connected by choice and love. Inside, the smell of Mrs. Patterson's cooking filled the air. Dr. Tanaka had arrived too, bringing samples of a new type of kelp she'd discovered. Father O'Brien was setting the table, humming an old hymn. This was family now. Not the family Marcus was born into, or even the one he'd built with Sarah. This was something new, something that proved family wasn't about where you came from, but about who you chose to love. Luna ran inside, laughing at something Mrs. Patterson said. Her tentacles waved with joy. She was home. Marcus stood in the doorway for a moment, taking it all in. 37 years of fishing, and he'd caught a lot of things from the ocean. But that night he pulled Luna from the dark water. He'd caught something far more valuable than any fish. He'd caught a second chance at happiness, a purpose beyond himself, and proof that love could cross the vast distances between stars. The lonely fisherman wasn't lonely anymore. The alien refugee wasn't lost anymore. They were family. And in a universe vast and strange, and often frightening, that was everything. Marcus smiled and walked inside to join the others. Tomorrow he'd take Luna fishing, teach her the family trade. Next week she'd visit the refugee fleet for the first time, meeting her cousins. But tonight they'd share a meal, tell stories, and be grateful for the impossible miracle that brought them together. Because sometimes the universe sends exactly what you need, even if it arrives in the strangest way possible.